The Dark Night of the Soul. Once, in a small village nestled between rolling hills, lived a young man named Elias. He had always been known for his optimism, his bright smile, and his eagerness to help others. To the villagers, he seemed to have everything: youth, health, and a loving family. Yet, beneath his cheerful demeanor, Elias carried a deep sense of emptiness that no one knew about. One autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the first stars began to twinkle in the sky, Elias found himself alone on a quiet hill, looking at the vast stretch of the world around him. The colors of the sunset seemed to mock him, their beauty reminding him of the hollowness he felt inside. For years, he had ignored this feeling, pushing it aside with laughter and distraction. But tonight, something had shifted. The weight of his discontent pressed down on him like never before. He didn't know why, but he suddenly felt lost. Every path he had taken seemed meaningless, every success he'd achieved felt hollow. He had helped others, worked hard, and lived a good life, but now it all felt like a game, an illusion. He sat on the grass, his thoughts spiraling into a dark vortex. "What is the point of it all?" he whispered to the night. "Why am I here? What am I searching for?" The sky, vast and silent, offered no answers. Days turned into weeks, and Elias withdrew from the world. He no longer visited his friends, nor did he help his family with their daily chores. Instead, he spent long hours alone in his room, staring at the walls, questioning everything about himself. This was the beginning of what ancient sages called the dark night of the soul. It was a time of deep inner turmoil, a period of profound questioning and spiritual crisis. In this dark night, Elias had to confront the truth of his existence, not the truth others had told him or the one he had constructed for himself, but a raw, unfiltered reality that was both terrifying and liberating. One particularly cold evening, Elias found himself at the village's old chapel. He had never been particularly religious, but something drew him there now. The stained glass windows filtered the moonlight, casting colored shadows on the stone floor. He knelt before the altar, tears streaming down his face. He didn't pray for anything specific, he didn't even know what to ask for, but in that moment, he allowed himself to be vulnerable, to let go of all the walls he had built around his heart. "I don't know what to do anymore," he confessed aloud, his voice trembling. "I feel lost, broken, empty." For a long time, there was silence. The air was heavy, and Elias wondered if he was being foolish. But then, as if from deep within himself, a small voice whispered, not in words, but in a deep knowing, "You are not broken. You are becoming." At that moment, Elias felt something shift inside him. The darkness, which had seemed so suffocating, no longer felt like an enemy. It was as if he was standing at the edge of a great transformation. He realized that this period of despair wasn't a punishment, but a necessary part of his journey. The emptiness was a space waiting to be filled not with external things, but with something deeper, something real. Days passed, and Elias began to emerge from his cocoon of sorrow. He started to spend time with the villagers again, not as the man who had all the answers, but as someone who was still learning, still growing. He began to meditate, to listen more closely to the world around him, and, most importantly, to listen to himself. The dark night of the soul did not disappear overnight, but Elias learned to embrace it. He understood now that the journey inward, though painful, was essential for growth. It was through the dark that he would find his light, and through the silence he would find his voice. One crisp morning, as the first rays of dawn touched the village, Elias stood on that same hill where his journey had begun. The emptiness he had once feared no longer felt like a void. Instead, it felt like a vast ocean, full of possibility. He smiled to himself, knowing that this was only the beginning.